Okay, choose your places.
Okay, how about Kevin?
And Kevin Packer is right back. In the black jacket. Right back. He's got the right back. Welcome everybody on this nice warm day. Glad you could come in. We have a pretty good crowd here actually for as cold as it is. I thought maybe nobody would show up. Now, are there any new visitors, any new members here today? See a few people.
Yes.
Met a few. You want to start?
I'm Paul Klein and been a 46-year resident of Bloomington here, and I've been a member of this church here for the whole time.
All right.
And I found you guys. I didn't know you guys existed, but until you guys showed at the craft fair that the church sponsored here just before Christmas, ran across you guys there, and it's like my wife was saying that's right up your alley. I love doing stuff with my hands. I like modeling and whatever else. And I do have some so anyway, decided to check you guys out.
Well, good.
I learned something.
Yep. Welcome to the club.
Hi, I'm Alan from Cottage Grove. I'm here for moral support because she loves scroll sawing. It's my wife.
All right.
Stand up.
As usual, my husband embarrasses me.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know. My husband's a woodworker, so I'm trying to find something that we can do together. Started scroll sign, really still new at it, have a lot of questions, you know, I want to try intarsia. Just here to, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Pam.
Yeah.
Earlier,
Yeah.
Well, you picked a good day to come because Troy is going to give us an introduction to scroll sawing today. We're going to kind of go over the basics. All right, Dale.
So I'm Dale Kelly. So I've been here almost forever, not quite, but this is my grandson Elijah. He got a scroll saw now. He's interested in it.
All right.
Awesome.
Get up. Oh, sure.
I'm Kurt. I got to know Elmer at the store where he worked. And he had made a sign that sits in the entryway. And I said, how the devil did you do that? So he talked to me and we started talking a little bit. And then I saw a scroll saw on Marketplace and I picked it up and I thought, okay, now I'm going to have to learn how to use this. And of course, like everything that I usually do, I jump in way too quickly above my skill level. And then you get that and you look at it and you go, okay, I got to learn how to do this the right way. So henceforth, I'm here.
Good. Kurt also said he volunteers at the local junior high school.
Yeah, there was a middle school, they have a tech ed program after school. And I've done that for a while. And then this is my second year at the high school, right? The wood shop. So main reason for that is I like woodworking. And the kids are really great. And it's also a nice warm place during the winter where I can keep my skill level up. And also the kids will really challenge me to make sure that I'm remembering the right things.
Them scroll sign soon.
Well, they have to get themselves a decent scroll saw.
All right. Name tags. Katie's got a couple of them here. Mike J. Evans. Let's pass that back to him. And Norm Larson, if he's here. I don't think he is. All right.
And if anybody wants a name tag, just write it down for me.
Okay. Cheryl, would you come up here? I made a couple of crosses, one for you and one for Pastor
Oh,
Rob.
wow, those are beautiful. Thank you.
So.
All right. Thank you very
Stand
much.
up here and I'll take your picture.
Take those stickers off and then hold it.
Yeah. let's get you. You hold one and I'll hold two. Try it out.
Let me get you closer.
Just-
I got it.
What you do with the camera, he still can't, doesn't take those pictures.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
You did, Derek.
Thank you.
He does.
Very well. We're glad to be here and we're just happy that you treated us as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Secretary's report, Steve, what have you got for us?
I sent out the secretary's report. There were no changes or corrections to that, so
We're good.
it was good.
Okay. Helen is not here today.
Helen, she sent me an email saying she could not make it because she was ill and didn't want to bring that to us. I
All right.
thought she might be on Zoom, but no, is she checked in on Zoom there, Carl?
She, you can check.
Otherwise, I have her report if we need to go over that.
Nope, she's not on.
There. So treasurer's report, the opening balance was $3,881.16. There was a one member ship fee deposited for $20, expenses, $361 for insurance. So the ending balance was $3,540.16. And there's $80.75 in cash.
Okay. Can you hear back there? Okay? All right. Yeah, we had to pay our liability insurance, so Helen took care of that, so we should be good. All right. Motion to accept the treasurer's report,
So,
second, all in favor? Opposed? All right. New business, TLC toy report, Roger.
We turned in 162 cars last month. And the paintables were 279. And in our next newsletter, we'll have a report from Jim, what actually went out his door. So,
All right, that's this.
yes,
Okay, I'm gonna give this to
but,
Tiffany and see if she'll put it in our newsletter.
well, we had a pretty good year. We got a lot of stuff done and they really appreciate that.
Good.
And right now, we're working on cards. I do have some patterns if anybody needs them. They're really easy to make. So,
Any new people, if you'd be interested, just talk to Roger and
yeah,
he can help set you up. You can do as little or as many as you feel.
or lots.
Or a lot. You know. They always need it. State Fair, Don, anything?
I just encouraging everybody to get started on their project. And, remember that I'll be there to help you get it signed up and everything.
Okay. Steve, how about a report on the woodcraft going on March 2nd?
The woodcraft class here in Bloomington, it'll be March 2nd, which is Sunday, and that'll be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're going to have 4 saws there. Troy will bring 2. There's one in the store, and then I'll bring 1. So we're only opening the class to 4 students maximum, and if there's just 2 or 3, we'll run the program not just for 1 person. So Troy and I will be there. I think Katie suggested she could come. There's one other person that wants to come and help out, so it's handy to have 1 person per student.
Yeah.
When is it again?
It's Sunday, March 2nd.
All right. You you need any more volunteers, or you think you're good?
Well, we can have one more.
This is at the mini, the two.
At Bloomington at Woodcraft.
On the deal.
On Linden.
I can help you.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Don. February's program will be in Tarsia with a fellow named John Schlegel from Rogers. Katie, are you familiar with this gentleman?
Yeah, he's a friend.
Can you say a few words about him?
It's the same as Matt, John, I've been trying to get John to come to a meeting for years and years. And he doesn't leave his house very much. And so I finally convinced him, I think he's gonna be here. But his wife and I are gonna make the presentation. I'll go out there and talk with him a little more. I've got already taken a bunch of pictures of the work that he's done, and I'll turn it into a slideshow, but I'm almost positive he's gonna be here because his wife said as soon as people start asking him questions, then he goes. So you gotta get your questions ready. It's intarsia is what it is, and he's done a whole lot of Judy Gale Roberts intarsia patterns.
Does he enter his things down in Dubuque and,
No,
no,
no, he doesn't go very.
he kind of shy?
I would say yes, but once you get him talking,
He
he's not.
goes. Okay. All right. Other items or questions? I was noticing the wood, John, is that free?
Yeah, if anybody needs it.
Anybody wants some wood, go ahead and take a look and take anything you need. Any other things, Roger?
I got lots of wood with me, a lot of cedar and a lot of pine for doing cars. I've got one bundle of Baltic birch. That's all he came up with, so
All right.
it's all free,
Yep.
so.
Take a look at it. If you need any of that plywood, it's a very nice 1/4-inch
Baltic
plywood.
birch.
Beautiful. So it'd be real good for any kind of starting projects. It's just exceptionally nice wood. All right. Let's go with our show and tell then. Anybody got something?
Nobody wants to.
You're first.
I'm first, all right. All right, two things I had. One is this little cross made out of plywood. I made it for my wife and gave it to her and she said, well, it's plywood. John, I feel your pain here. About something more like that. But anyway, it turned out.
Were you afraid to use a more expensive wood?
Well, I just didn't have any time, you know, I thought, I had to go out backyard to get a piece of decent wood. So yeah, it's a plywood. I've regretted it ever since. Then we got a Christmas card or a Christmas email from some people out in Oregon. They said one of the pictures said they're playing penny drop. I go, what the heck's penny drop? Well, it's a little game. And all you need is a thing that says penny drop and these 6 slots. 1 through 5 are sort of half slots and the penny won't fit in there, but it'll stick in it. Kind of like that. All right. So you have a dice, you roll that. If you roll 1 through 5, you put a penny in here. It's your turn. If you roll a 6, it'll go through the 6, and so you get rid of a penny. And the idea is to get rid of your pennies. And you have maybe 10 of them. So I looked around for a pattern. Well, Steve Good happened to have a pattern. So I said, well, hey, I'll download that. So I downloaded his pattern and cut it out. But he had a box underneath, and I'm going, man, I don't want to make a box. You know, I'm all that trouble. I just wanted to make this. And so I looked around the house and I found one of these things that you get sliced meat in. I said, well, hey, I'll just, I already got a box there. I'll just make this. And so I made that to fit. And when I got done, the nice thing turned out that you can snap the lid back on and it stays on. I went, hey, I've invented something. So I was happy to sell this. Yeah. So.
Is that plywood?
Yeah, that's a plywood. That's my favorite. I love plywood. Black button there. Yeah, you can't do better than plywood.
You're covering your face. That's fine. Smile. Come on, laugh. You won't do it.
All right. And we played this game with some friends that we knew, and a fellow went in the back room and he says, "Say, could you turn this into one of those?" And I said, "Hey, yeah, I could, you know, all I'll do this, it's a cigar box." So we already got a box. I said, "Well, I'll just put the pattern on there and cut it out when I got time and give it back to you." So you could make it out of pretty much anything if you got a box.
I would.
Plywood. Everybody loves plywood, except my wife. And next person. Mary?
Well, I decided that I wanted to do something for Christmas presents this year. And so I was looking at the patterns that Steve Good had out there and then I saw where because of his illness, he put a little app out there to use that we could use to personalize them. And so I've done about 8 or 9 of these. Some of them were this nativity design and a couple of them were the snowman design. But, so I've been having fun with these.
And you put a person's name on there?
Yes, there was a way, when he gave you the app, which is what he would have used if he did it for you. But because he was running behind, he put it out on his website or his blog, and you just put in the name. And then you needed to adjust it a little bit up and down and left and right, but it didn't take much to figure that out. And so I think I did 4 different names, and it worked out really slick.
All right,
So,
very nice.
yeah.
Plywood.
I made these affiliated woodpeckers. I made 3 of them. I have a craft show, and so I make one of these is gonna go to California as soon as I get it packaged.
Step over about a step. That picture is right behind there. A little bit more. There we go. Thanks.
Then these crosses I made.
Is the Last Supper in there?
Yeah, so that's,
Wow.
I made 9 of them. They take about 7 hours to do one.
You made 9 of them in the last month?
Yeah,
Wow. Where are you
It's a lot of time and work.
giving them away?
no.
No?
He sells them.
I saw, and then I made this plaque for the horse. Somebody gave me some picture frames. I got a bunch of picture frames, so I thought, wow, that's a good one. Fish.
Hold it up just a little bit there.
Upside down.
No, it's
No,
right.
no.
He's swimming.
Yeah. This. Another kind of like a Christmas gnome.
Up higher.
A little bit there. You made all these this month,
The last 2 months.
last 2 months.
These, this is ash that I made, you know.
And the woodpecker, what kind of wood was that?
This is
red cedar and the rest of it's walnut. And the white is aspen and the head is bloodwood.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I think. I got. I mean, 4 different kinds of crosses.
Wow. Right?
Otherwise, there's a cross. We've made stand up.
Right?
Okay, that's enough.
Wow.
Enough.
That's another.
But I got a couple other
The one in the
crosses.
back.
This is a forest,
That is really good.
this one.
Next.
Well, I don't have the skills that, Mike and the rest of you guys have got, but I like to play with a few things. I started out doing stained glass and that's really what I do and master actually, stained glass. So I started with scroll saw. So
Plug it in.
So I decided I'm gonna do a little bit of everything on this one. So I got stained glass in there, I got the scroll saw, I used to do some wood burning, so I did a little bit of that in there. I'm not a painter, so, but I tried. So I painted the trees. So everything else is kind of a drops and scrap from what I had left from making some of the cars and stuff like that, so. That's kind of what it ended up being, a little mod podge of everything, a buffet of everything, so. I thought that was kind of different, so I don't think too many people put stained glass in their projects.
Did you just start with an idea of a deer or did that just sort of evolve?
I talked to my daughter, they were out deer hunting, and I said, I gotta make a deer, cause he just got one, so I thought, I'm gonna make a deer. So that's, ended up seeing a deer pattern and then I seen the many layers of that go into it, so that's what I did.
Very nice.
I don't know how many have looked at it, but you know what? Anybody make tea candle holders? Anybody have any idea where this pattern come from?
Steve Good.
You're the only one, don't you? Cause you were up here.
Who was it?
Out of the cars that we do for TLC toys.
It was the cards that I had left. I threw that in my pile. I looked at it. I thought, hey, that's kind of different. So I cut the top and the bottom off of what I had left. And so actually that's a car that's reversed on both sides. So that was my scrap. So I thought, well, that's kind of a different way of making key holders, using all the scrap I got.
Good idea.
The other thing is that, Roger, I think you said they didn't want to use knots or stuff, right, in their wood?
No, if we can help it, we don't want.
Yeah, I ended up with some cedar that had knots in it. And I ended up with some pieces that were like this that I couldn't really make any more cars out of or anything. So anybody use their scraps to make anything else out of? I used it and I have some pictures on my camera, but I made planters, the stand. So like 10 inches by 10 inches. They're not very big, but they're like for in the house, you can put stuff. So I made a planter. I got some pictures on my camera that I took.
Yeah.
So I recycle it into them that way. So I used all them pieces up that I had that have a lot of, that had knots in it that I wasn't gonna make any cars out of. And I have some cars up here, Roger, and last time I was here, I gave some of the half of my wood away or part of my wood away to somebody else, if you remember. So I'm out of wood completely.
He's got one.
I like to do whimsical stuff. I'm sure everybody has seen my girlfriend. And the caption on here is before 6 beers. And as soon as you turn it over, after 6 beers, I'm sure everybody's seen that. So
It's great.
I like to do little funny things once in a while, and I seen that and I thought, okay, so,
Yeah.
yeah. That was before we go out and after we've been out for a little while and drinking this. You know, so,
All right.
okay.
Thanks, Mike. Looks like something you'd make, Elmer. He made a reversible thing. What was that one that you made, the reversible piece?
Oh, that was, says angel on one side and you flip it over and
Yeah,
got that pattern.
yeah, that was kind of cool.
My daughter and the grandkids went to Hawaii this year for Christmas. So I made a ornament to commemorate it, and it isn't plywood.
Thank you, Mark.
Keep this up,
John
I won't get
Engler?
rid of that one bubble like that.
Nobody will take plywood anymore.
This intarsia, tarsia slash segmentation is really the flag is my segmentation on intarsia. Judy Gale Roberts pattern, I bought it when I was down there. She made it, she did a contract job for NASA in 69 or 2019, commemorating the landing on the moon. And so this was part of it. And her flag has, it says, it's something about NASA moonwalking or something like that. Anyway, on the pattern, she offers either a blank, you put your own in, or the flag. So I decided to do the flag. It's a walnut mostly, and then I use holly for the white and yellow heart for the that. And then struggled a long time on how to do this flag. And I did it first because I wanted the flag to look decent. But I went to the segmentation. The reason is, one, there is no blue wood. So if you want blue like this, you got to stain it. I used a dye. And so instead of, and then the red, really you want to get decent red, you got to use bloodwood. And I don't know if you ever cut bloodwood in long length. It's very hard. And so I wanted the color. So I ended up making it all out of aspen and then just dyeing the red and the blue. And the stars, I don't know how many stars I cut, a lot of stars to get some good ones. But I started out with aspen and made it real thin, but aspen doesn't hold up. You'd cut it just sitting there, the leg would pop off or whatever. They just too much stress in it. So I ended up using holly again, and that worked really good. You can't buy holly around here that I know of. In Tennessee they have it, and, but it's got a nice color to it, and it cuts really nice. But so it was anyway. That was my last winter's project, and I don't know anything else about it. But anyway.
Gotta take a lot of work, I think, just to make the stars. Is that the worst part of it?
Yeah, that was part of it, but then it's lining them up, but, I started out with 1-inch walnut to get that wing thick.
Yeah.
That was brutal. That's a lot of sand. You get 1 inch down to that. Yeah, so I think I'd do that a little bit different.
Did you sort it by grain or is it one chunk that you cut individually?
No, it's not all one chunk. There's different
Oh, okay,
chunks.
different.
Great.
Okay, so you rotated the grains based on where the feathers fell.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Troy?
This is my second attempt at intarsia. I underestimated how tough it would be to do a circle. So there are a few gaps. But overall, it's interesting, but so you have these red cardinals and I could use bloodwood. The problem is I don't like using exotics because if you use something like bloodwood, 6 months from now, it's gonna be brown. So this is actually 1.5-inch maple that I use a trans tint dye. His dye won't fade. It'll stay red forever. And so I did cheat. Not true intarsia. And I just told my wife that the worst thing is that they'll drum me out of the car. But otherwise, this is cherry. Black walnut. It's actually Wenge for the faces. This is actually, I dyed this yellow. This is maple. And this is aspen. But the trick with aspen is that it will yellow when you put a finish on it. So I actually hit it with a whitewash stain just to make it white. Otherwise, it'll turn kind of a yellow color. So that was actually suggested in the pattern. It is Kathy Wise pattern. And yeah, it's not too bad. I use a wonder wheel to add the texture. It turned out okay. I mean, we're gonna keep doing intarsia or not, but we'll see. My wife loves this. Oh,
Actually, like will stay red. Well, yeah, the red hearts and the dukes and that they turn.
Yeah, my fingers doesn't always come brown.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else has something up here? John?
Yep. So Clinton and I were talking about flexible sandpaper. And 3M was made a brand of it, but you couldn't find it. And so I was looking around at Rockler and I came upon these. These are new or relatively new. 3M discs. Yeah, I'm a retired 3Mer, so I always promote those products. There's another brand that Rockler carries. It's also flexible like this. But these things, you know, they'll go on your sander, but they roll down flat. You can put them on a piece of wood and sand with it, and then it just retains its shape so well. One thing I haven't tried is the dust gets in them, and sometimes you can't get the dust out real well. So I'm going to try washing them, but they're not metallic, so I'm pretty sure they'll stand up for the wash.
These aren't the kind that are supposed to stick to a sander though.
Yeah, these go on an orbital sander.
Oh, they will.
That's what they're meant for, orbital sander, but there's just so doggone flexible, and they're tough. I don't know if you've used orbital sanders and got it caught on an edge or something and had it rip the sandpaper.
Yeah.
I had these caught on an edge and stuff, and they just endure. They're still nice and round and everything.
So you're using these by hand some of the time.
Yeah, and they got it in grits up to 400. I think these go up to 320. I've got another set that goes up to 400. So I thought I'd pass these around and you can take a look at them. These are 80 grits. If you want to open the package and look, they're up to 320. So I'll just pass these around.
Stand over here. If I get you with that for background, it'll make a good picture.
I'll just stand with these.
Oh, ready? Thanks.
These are, like I said, the only place I found these is at Rockler. I looked for them at Ace and Home Depot, but the only place you can find these right now is at Rockler.
All right. Thank you, Don. Nobody else has another project? All right, well, let's take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back and we'll do the program. Troy.
Eat cookies.
And eat some cookies. Oh, and check out that wood back there. Okay, time for program. Time for program.
Car has.
All right, Roger, we're gonna start it.
I thought, well, heck with it. I cut it out anyhow. My first one, I seen that. I need another one. Anyway. I ended up cutting it out.
Maybe I can. Yeah, you might, you never know. You could probably do better. You can always learn something from other people, you know, those tricks.
All right.
Keep it open.
I'll throw up the PowerPoint to start with. Start there. All right. You'll have to bear with me. You're getting over a little bit of a cold here, so my voice is a little weak, but we'll do what we can. So welcome, everyone. Anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Troy Buchan. I'm the Vice President of North Star Scrollers. So what we're doing this week is we're going to be talking back to basics. I thought it was a good way to start off the year. We got a lot of people that are fairly new here, may not know some of the basics that we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about saws. We're going to talk about setting up saws and blades and all kinds of good stuff. Next slide there, bro. So choosing a saw, setting up your saw and work area, blades and parents. So first thing I talk about is purchasing a scroll saw. There are a lot of options out there. If you flip the next slide. Oh, actually, it's not. First, we'll talk about blades. All right. Pin versus plane and blades. Which should you choose? So this saw right here, this is a jet, 18-inch, and I use a plane and blades. The saws I'm going to talk about today all use plane and blades, and there's a very good reason why you want to use plane in versus pin in. As you can see up here, the pin and blades have that pin across the top, where the plane ins do not. Saws that use plane and blades are much more versatile, tend to be higher quality than the saws that use pin blades, and they allow you to make small, intricate cuts. So if you see, I'm just going to borrow one here. Yep, so like in the cross here, these really tiny cuts. So you're drilling a really small hole, and you're threading that blade through and making that cut, figuring out if you have a pinion blade, you can't do those small ones. So that's the big advantage of that plane and blade, is you can get in there. So like I said, saws I'm going to talk about today are all plane and blade saws. That's what we're going to use. So go ahead to the next slide. So these are all saws that I can recommend. The reason I recommend these saws is I have personal experience with all of them. I've owned about half of them or more. These are all good saws. Now, they range in price. The DeWalt starts around $500, and the Hockman Hegner are about $1,500. You can get them used. A lot of times, these are all the reason I talk about these saws. These are all saws that are in production. There are other saws out there. The other ones are just fine. You may be using some of the other ones. I was just talking to Mary. She bought the Bauer saw, which looks very much like the Jet. That's at Harbor Freight. That one's only $250. Now, I haven't used it. Mary's pretty happy with it, but it is a clone of the Jet style saw here. So it seems like it might not be a bad saw for a beginner. I didn't include it because I haven't personally used it. I'm not familiar with it. I can't say for now. But all these saws are currently in production, and that means that you can still get parts for them. There are some very good saws out there that you can't get parts for anymore. You can't get parts for a saw, it becomes a doorstop, because these saws, something's going to break eventually. Use these saws enough, you're going to have to replace something on them, and that's okay. These saws are meant to have parts that wear out. It's normal. Your blade holders may wear out, a bearing may wear out. That's totally normal. So if you have one of these saws and that happens, you can contact the manufacturer or me, times two, I know how to repair all these saws. And they're all fairly, for me at least, fairly easy to repair. And fairly inexpensive. The Hegner and the Hawk are a little more expensive for repairs, but they also need repairs the least. Okay. And like I said, all these saws use planing blades. These are all ones that I can personally recommend and say are really great saws.
What makes them a great saw versus?
A good saw?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have them kind of listed in order of, well, the Pegasus Jet and Seiko are all pretty much the same quality. And if you look, they're actually almost the same design because they're all made in the same factory. So the DeWalt is a really good entry saw. So the DeWalt is probably the least expensive saw I would personally use, and I own a DeWalt, one that I bought used. So low vibration, cuts really smooth, reliable. To give you an idea, a DeWalt will last, hopefully, depending maybe a couple hundred hours before you have to.
Hours?
Yes,
Okay.
which sounds like a lot, but if you use your saw a couple hours of, a few hours a week over a year, you've already got 100 hours on it. So my experience from what I've heard, DeWalt's tend to last 100 to 300 hours before you have to do a complete rebuild and replace all the bearings. And that's about $100. And I did a few months ago, took a little longer than I thought it would, but we did a rebuild of one, and like I said, it's not too difficult. A Pegasus, a Jet, Seiko, all the same. Now they all use the same basic design. That's where you have the front, where the front moves up and down instead of the whole arm, called a parallel link arm. And they're all based on the Excalibur design, which are no longer in production. They purchase the design, or they license the design from the manufacturer in Taiwan that owns the design. And they make different little tweaks to them. So Pegasus,
Troy, I want to make a comment about the DeWalt. I mean, I bought mine in 2008.
Mhm.
Now, the bearings were getting bad.
Mhm.
They weren't terrible,
Nope.
but so it lasted more than a few $100.
Yeah, like I said, you don't know. The problem with the DeWalt's, I like the DeWalt and I don't like the DeWalt. I'm trying not to get in the weeds here, but some of them will last a couple hundred hours, some might last 500. You just don't know. It's really hit and miss with the DeWalt's. It just depends. I've had a lot of experience. I've had some that didn't last very long and some that last longer. You just don't know.
What's your opinion on the Delta 394? Anybody here have that
The
one?
C frame, that the big C frame
The
one,
big one, yeah, 16 or 18 inch?
can't get parts for it.
Wow.
Yeah, they're,
No, it's,
I don't think
it's
it's
a
the
parallel.
Which-
It's-
which one is it?
It's new, the 394.
oh, they look like a DeWalt?
DeWalt.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, kind of like.
Yeah,
that.
okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. That one actually, DeWalt owned Delta for a while. And they developed that saw based on the DeWalt.
Hmm.
So actually, yeah, that one's actually probably, I always forget about that one.
Sure.
You don't see it, yeah, that one's really, it's basically just a DeWalt rebadge. DeWalt sold Delta about 10 years ago, but right before they sold, they designed that one you're talking about,
Yep.
and it is a clone of the DeWalt, uses the same parts.
How about that Excalibur?
Excaliburs are no longer in production, so I didn't put them up here. I just want to stick with ones that are in production. You can get parts for Excaliburs. They're perfectly fine. They're great saws. I like them a lot, but I wanted to stick with ones that you could purchase new for back to basics here.
So I don't know if anyone here does this for a living. I don't know if anyone scroll saws for a living, 40 hours a week type of thing, but if you take the DeWalt and the Hawk side by side, can you tell the difference in the quality of the cut, the machine, the vibration, the use?
Absolutely.
Okay,
So currently I own a DeWalt, Jet, Hegner, and a Hawk,
okay.
and I can tell the difference between all of them.
And you prefer one over the other?
The Hawk is my daily driver.
Okay.
So I use the Hawk. I know not every Hawks are kind of divisive. Some people like them, some don't.
Mhm.
I've owned 4 or 5 of them over the years. I love them because you don't have to touch them. The one I've got now, I've put several hundred hours on and I haven't done anything. I haven't touched a thing. I just got my Hegner. I'm waiting for some parts on it, but so far that's really it.
She started out with the 50-year-old Delta.
Yep.
The really old, with the big old mechanism for doing, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We got to live in a week. But, will the better, we have an opportunity to get that one
A Hawk,
inexpensively through a friend.
okay.
will a lesser quality saw drive you away from scroll sawing because it's so much work, it's so much hassle, and you're breaking blades and doing stuff, or is it operator error?
Yeah, no, yeah, I always recommend everyone, if you have an opportunity to buy a high quality saw used, I would so if I'd buy a used Hawk over a new DeWalt any day.
Okay,
Not that DeWalt's are bad, they're fine.
right,
I like them, but a Hawk is a better saw.
sure.
Because here's the thing is in the Jet, the Hawk, the Pegasus, there are 13 variants in here. In a Hawk, there are 4.
Oh, wow,
Same with the Hawk.
sure.
And they're bigger. They're big variants. So they're less complicated. And the Hawks, now with the Hawks, you want to be careful. Some have a front tension lever, some do not. You want to make sure you get them all the front tension lever. You can't add it. It can't be added. It either has it or it doesn't. The Hegners, you can add it as an
So
option.
it's a turn down the opportunity if it doesn't have that?
I would, yes.
Okay,
Because right now, 10 miles from my house, there is a Hawk with the front tension lever for $175.
wow.
There's a 26-inch Hawk a little further away from my house for $350.
Mhm.
And I have a 26-inch Hawk and I paid about $350 for it. So, yeah, the Hawk, and the thing is, if you do need to place part on a Hawk, because it does happen occasionally, they're still in business. You can order parts. You can get parts for the oldest one to the newest one. So that's okay. So I'm kind of got in the weeds there a little bit on saws, but that's a big one. Saws you got to start with a saw. And like I said, the Seiko, the Jet Pegasus, these are all good saws. And there are other ones too, but I didn't want to get too complicated. Keep simple. Go ahead and move to the next slide.
Do all the Hawks have variable speed?
They do not. The older Hawks do not have variable speed. Some are single speed, some have where you change the belts.
Can you add the variable speed?
You cannot.
Okay,
That's the thing about Hawks is that if it's variable speed, it's variable speed. If it's not variable speed, it's not variable speed. You can't, I mean, you could potentially, but it would cost more than buying a new Hawk.
okay.
So yeah, so Hawks, you want to look for a variable speed and that front tension lever. Yep, and if they don't have it, just walk away because they come up all the time. I bought every Hawk I want to buy used. Never bought a new one. Actually, I don't think I've ever bought a new scroll saw. Period. All right, so now we got your saw. And don't feel bad if you have a pinion blade saw or you have one of these other ones I didn't talk about. Don't feel bad. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad saws. There are plenty of good saws out there. The only bad saw is the one you don't use. So I'm just talking when someone says, "Hey, I'm looking to buy a saw. What should I do?" I'm going to recommend one of those because those ones I know are good. I know you can get parts for them. I know they're repairable. Is there, I know the companies are reliable. They're backed up. They said Excalibur used to be really good, but they went out of business. They sold their name to a Chinese company, started making these black Excaliburs, which I know some people have, and I've worked on them, and I'm not impressed. But if they work for you, that's great, and I'm not knocking them. If they were, I tore them apart, and I really hated them because of how they were built, and especially for what they were charging. So anyway, so we'll go up here. We'll talk about setting up your stand, your saw and work area. Go ahead to the next one here. So stands. Stands are really important. You wouldn't think so, but this saw, if it's not attached to a stand like this, will bounce across the workbench. Yes, it will, Tom. Yes, it will.
I had it on my workbench.
You must have had it clamped down because I put it on mine. She walked right across the workbench. I bought this saw from John, so that's like all right, well, maybe it wasn't walking across the workbench, but anyway, it wasn't bolted down. You get vibration. It'll vibrate because these are meant to be on the stand. Because the stand adds weight and rigidity to the saw. Now, like the Hawk and the Hegner, they have bespoke stands. Same with the Seiko, comes with a stand built in. Well, I say the Hawk and the Seiko have stands that are part of the machine. I think you can buy a Seiko without a stand, but it's part of the machine. It's all built in. Same with the Hawk. It's just part of it. The Hegner, the DeWalt, they all have accessory stands that you can purchase. You can buy the ones from the company. I didn't buy the Jet one because they want $300 for it, which I thought was a little ridiculous when I bought this one at Menards for $25. So, as I have on here, actually I don't like this stand, but I'm stuck with it. Harbor Freight actually makes one I really like, and it's got an adjustable height. And it just comes like that without the wood. You definitely need to add the plywood, and this is just bolted to the top. I recommend you bolt it down here too, because it makes the stand more rigid. But if you put this saw or any saw on a stand like this, that's rigid, I don't necessarily need the wheels on it. I don't recommend the wheels. I have it on wheels because I need to. And the saw goes from shaking all over the place to very smooth. Because if your stand is wobbly, you get there's a little vibration, and it's just gonna magnify, and it's gonna amplify that wobble, and it's gonna get much worse. So you want a nice, heavy, sturdy stand. So very, very important. Like I said, the one at Harbor Freight's about $40. Throw a piece of plywood on it. I have some threaded inserts underneath here, make it easy to unbolt, because I move the saw around a lot. I use it for demos and stuff like that. But you don't have to do it, you can just bolt it right to the stand. So it's nice and rigid, not moving around, got the height right. So the more rigid, the more stable, the better. These wheels lock, which help. So really important to get a good stand for your saw. You can put it on your workbench, but you're gonna have to bolt it down with them. Either clamp it or bolt it down. Because if they're not bolted down, they do tend to walk. Because you get that vibration, it's just amplifying. Let's move to the next slide. The chairs are very important. So I just have my little cheap chair here. This is my $45 chair from Menards. This is what I started with. And it's not adjustable, but it works just fine. And then I moved up, excuse me, I moved up to the adjustable height one from Northern Tool, which is actually kind of nice. It's nice to have that adjustable height. A little more comfortable, it's got a backrest. I used that for many years. And then my wife bought me the Viper chair for my birthday, which is, yeah, I had it in here a couple of months ago when we did some demos, and I think people were more impressed with the chair than they were the saws, but you don't need to spend $650 on a chair. That's ridiculous. It's crazy. I really like it, but it's ridiculous. A good little $45 chair works fine. I used to use the drafting. I don't have it on here. The drafting chair I got from Menards, which is meant for a drafter, so it's a little higher. It had a nice back and those padded seats. It was like $65. You don't have to spend a ton of money. But a good chair is important, because this chair, after sitting on it for 3-4 hours, your back's gonna hurt. I sit on that one, I can do it all day in my back. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for a stool. Just because these saws always sit about 30 inches, 25 to 30 inches high, these tables. So you need a chair that's high enough. If your chair is, if you just have a regular chair like here, you're way down too low. I mean, you're sitting, you're down like this, trying to look at it, and you want to be looking down at your saw. Go ahead and go to this. So you see, I've got a light here. This is nothing special. This is from Amazon. It's about $75. One a little bit more expensive. One they come in all price ranges. I just bought one similar to this for my wife. She does crochet, and she needed one to, because it's hard to see those little crochet stuff. Beauty of getting old. And I paid $40 for it. And hers isn't quite as fancy as this one, but this makes a big difference, because not only do you need the magnification, if you're like me and your eyes are starting to go, grab big ones as a kid, but the light. What will happen is, having that overhead light, you'll sometimes get a shadow. You'll get a double shadow and you can't see where that line is. So the way I work in my shop is I actually shut off the overhead lights. I have some under cabinet lights on, and then I just use this. Because I find I can see the line better if I don't have those overhead lights on. I just have this light shining down. So sometimes if I'm doing less intricate pattern, I'll just put it to the side, and I won't use the magnification. I'm just using the light, so I don't get that shadow, because you will get shadows really bad from overhead light, and it makes it hard to see where you're going. And this saw, you see, it's just attached to the side here. Hawk and Hegners, I should say most Hegners, and I think all Hawks that I've ever worked on, have a hole in the arm that this little guy just pops in. So you don't need the clamp. The Hegner I have, it's an accessory you have to buy. But yeah, they'll just pop in the top of the arm, and they sit right there, and those are really nice. But you can just, these little clamps work just fine too. Okay, go on this one. So foot switches, you can see I have a foot switch down here. These are important. I like these a lot. This is just a Harbor Freight, $15 for this foot switch. This is a dead man switch, which means that when you hold it down, it goes, and you let go, it stops. I had one of these for, oh God, 25 years. Use it on some of my other tools, and it finally died. I went to Harbor Freight to buy another one, and they have the same, looks exactly the same, only it's an on off. Tap it once, it turns off, tap it again, shuts off. So I thought, oh, what the heck, I'll just buy both, only 15 bucks, who cares? I actually ended up liking the tap on, tap off a lot better. But it really doesn't matter, they're the same price, they look identical, that's it right there. But it's nice because it frees up your hands. Because you want to have both hands free to work on your project and just control the on off with your foot. The other thing you'll notice is I have it on a block. There's a reason, because my legs aren't that long. So if I'm sitting up on that high chair, I can reach the pedal, and my leg is so extended that it gets really uncomfortable after a while. So this is actually Steve Good recommended this, to build a block. This is a couple, piece of plywood, screwed together, paint all over it. And I just attach the foot pedal to it. And I like these Harbor Freight ones because they're one of the few foot pedals that actually have holes for screws, so you can actually screw it down, so it doesn't slide around on the block.
The dead man,
Mhm.
so it's either momentary as your foot is on like a gas pedal.
Yep,
Or tap it, it's on.
yep, you move your
At
foot.
what speed?
Whatever speed I set up here.
So it's full through.
Yeah, this is just a switch. It's not a control.
Oh, I see.
The speed control is up here.
Got it.
This is just an on off. So what it is the saw plugs into the switch plugs into the wall. It's just a dumb switch. That's why it's only 15 bucks.
Do they make one that's variable speed? I thought-
No, not that I'm aware of. And it probably wouldn't work because these saws have a built-in variable speed up
Yeah,
here.
okay.
They're using a potentiometer to control the speed.
Sure.
There's a circuit board in here. These are, I think this is a DC motor. So it's a little bit different. It's not just a simple, it's not quite a VFD. I don't know if you know what a variable frequency drive is, but
Right.
I have a background in electrical, so I know that. But no, but it is a little bit different than, yeah. And that would really be a pain trying to hold your foot to keep.
Mhm.
So I can't imagine why you'd want that. I mean, sewing machines are like that. But you wouldn't want that in this.
Okay.
Right, so like I said, I didn't think I'd like the tap on, tap off, but actually I like it a little better. So I've been using that. So this is the dead man one.
It keeps your hands on the workpiece without having to.
Well, the thing is, I don't have to keep my leg extended on the foot pedal, which can get sore, so I can keep my foot back on the rung of my chair, which is a little more comfortable. So it's just a comfort.
The downside though, is the other one you're talking about, you let up, it shuts off.
Right,
To shut it off, you have to tap.
you have to tap it again, yep.
So,
The dead man is, when you're.
Most of us have the ones where you push, you let up and it goes off. But
Yeah,
mine
dead
is better, right? He just showed you some options.
Yeah, exactly. I used the dead man style for many years. I just recently switched to the other style. The dead man might be the better style for beginners. Yeah. Either one is perfectly fine. It's whatever you're comfortable with.
15 bucks, get them both and try them out.
Exactly. They're cheap. That's why, well, I have 4 saws, so that's why I'm like, oh, I'll just get another one, throw it on my other saw. Okay, so. Here we go. Okay. So we're gonna talk about setting up your workstation. So you're gonna spend a lot of hours in front of this saw. It pays to take a little time to find out what's comfortable. So this one is flat, but my saw at home is a Hawk. It has a built-in stand. And I actually just have 2 bricks sitting behind the back legs. So it's actually tilted towards me. Now, not everyone finds that comfortable. Some people like it flat. I like it tilted towards me. I find it's a little bit more comfortable. I can hold my shoulders in the right spot, in the right way. I'll kind of show you how we're gonna sit here and turn this a little bit. So when you're at your saw, you get your preferably have an adjustable height chair. This one's actually a little high for this saw, but I didn't want to drag in my big chair. It doesn't fit my car. The key is you want to be looking down. So that's where you notice you have that tilted toward you a little bit. It's a little bit, for me, I find it a little bit more comfortable. Does it shine on me? Can you move a little bit? Like I said, I find it a little more comfortable to have it tilted towards me, but that's a personal preference. Either way, we want it so that I'm looking down at this saw. Now, the trick is, what I found early on, that if you're all hunched up and you're tense, you're gonna have a hard time cutting a straight line. You gotta sit, find a comfortable position, relax, remember to breathe a little bit. And I'm gonna grab a blade here, with the different blades. So I find that if I've been doing this for a while, I need to take a break. I know I need to take a break, because all of a sudden I start not cutting so great. It's because I'm tensed up. Or I'm having a bad day. Or it's late at night. I learned never to cut after 8:30 at night. We'll talk a little bit about blades here, so I'm gonna put a blade in. So these are blades, how they come. There are 12 in a pack here. Wrapped with a wire. Take the blade. Now with a scroll saw, it cuts on the downward cut, on the downward stroke. So the blade, so the teeth always need to be pointed downward. So the easiest way to tell if you got the right way is to run your finger down. If it runs smooth, then I know the blade is pointing the right way. This is a reverse blade, which is a real popular blade. And it has teeth at the bottom that go up, so that when it comes up, it cleans it and gives you a nice little smoother cut. So what'll happen is I'll run my finger down, it'll go smooth, and it'll catch when it hits those upper teeth. So I know that's how I know I have it the right way. On this arm, the arm does lift up, make it a little easier. So I'm just going to put the blade in the bottom here. Tighten down the thumb screw. Bring down the arm. This will vary by saw. But on this particular stylus, if you have a DeWalt, it'll have the tension lever in the front. If you have a Hawk, it'll have a lever like this, but you actually set the tension in back. Hegner is kind of the same way. It'll have the tension in the front, but it also has another tension in the back. On this stylus saw, on the Jet, the Seagull, all you want to do is make sure that this arm is parallel. You don't adjust this ever. This arm, you take a ruler, you make sure that it's, let's say, 3 inches here, 3 inches here. That's all you need to do. That's all.
Top arm to bottom arm.
Top arm, bottom arm to top of the table. So this space right here should be the same back here as it is here.
Yeah.
If it's lower or higher, you're gonna have trouble. It's not gonna cut as smooth. They don't do a real good job in the manual explaining this, but it is exactly what you need to do. That's because you're like, oh, I go back here and crank up the tension. The tension's all done here. You just want to make sure that this is equal front to back, and you just turn this. All it does is it raises the arm up. So this is set, should be set perfectly pretty good. It might have got bumped on the way here. I'm not going to worry about it. So I've got in there, I flip the lever here. And how to tell if my blade is tensioned correctly? Hear that high, when I pluck the blade, that high pitched sound, that tells you it's correct. All right. I kind of skipped ahead here. I'm going to talk about blades and stuff a little bit more here in a minute, but so we got our blade tension. The main thing is we're sitting, we're relaxed, shoulders are relaxed. You know, you're breathing a little bit. And I pull down my magnifier here. And we got a little area. Most scrolls don't have a articulated blower like this. These do tend to wear out over time because you're moving it back and forth all the time. It'll get loose here. I picked up a 10-pack of these for $10 on Amazon. So, you know, $1 a piece, toss them out, replace them if they start getting loose. Or you can actually remove the last link and the next one will be tighter. You can these just pop off on and on. You might want to heat them up with a hairdryer, makes them a little easier to pop on off and makes the plastic a little lighter. But yeah, they just pop on and pop. And you can put it on the other side too if you want, on this one. So you angle and what this does is there's a small bellows in here that moves a little bit of air that keeps the dust off your line. Without this, your line gets covered up with dust right away and you can't see where you go. So the blower is really important. If you have an older saw, the blower's not working, what some people will do is take a aquarium pump and hook it up. It's just this one, it's all built in, it comes right up, but some of the other ones have a line that comes through. But you can just run a line up and you know, you'd have to rig something up. But so it's better if it's working. Okay. All right, so what I do, you know, in this case is a dead man, so I have to keep my foot up, but you notice that if I was pushing down here, that's pretty uncomfortable. That's why I have it lifted up, and then you just move it where you want it to be. And then on this one, the speed control is right here. That's top speed. I usually cut right about there. On this saw, on my hawk, I go full. The main thing is, no, don't say like this. You're gonna get really uncomfortable, you're gonna start cutting. Relax your shoulders. You can find a relaxed position. And just be. And the trick is not with a scroll saw is to not push. If you push, what'll happen is the blade will flex. Just a little bit. And if you're doing something like a puzzle and a piece that fit together, what happens is that the piece is cut like that. And if you have it on two sides, then it's cut like this. So it's like a cork in a bottle. It won't slide through. If you don't push, it'll be perfectly straight. It'll slide right through. And that's really not, on thin wood like this, it's not as much of an issue. But if you start doing some 3/4 inch stuff, like I do a lot of these puzzles, or like that intarsia project there that I did, where this stuff fits together. Like this one's not great, but you see where these fit together. So these are two different pieces of wood. If I push too hard, I'd end up with a big wide gap up here. Or I'd have a wide gap in behind. It wouldn't fit quite right. So by cutting carefully and getting that perfectly straight 90-degree line. And one thing I forgot to mention, I forgot to grab my little square, is you always want to make sure your blade is square. So I have a little machinist square that I bought for about $10 on Amazon. I actually put a magnet on the back and I attach it to my saw. So I'll pull that off, I'll hold it up here. And if my blade isn't quite straight, I'll adjust it. Because on this saw, oops. On this saw, the table moves. Or not table, I mean the head moves. On Hawk, Hegner, some of the other ones, DeWalt, the table moves. Pegasus is like this too. This is really nice. If you ever cut an angle, the table's always flat. When the other ones are, if you're holding it like this, trying to go through, it's not as easy. That's the whole reason I own this saw, is because I do angles every now and then, and I like having the ability to hold it. It's got a little notch. So that's the main thing. Remember, relax, let the saw blade do the work. So different wood is going to cut at different speeds. Plywood like this little 1/4 inch plywood, I can just blow through it. Now it'll cut fast. I can cut really fast. 3/4 inch maple or 1.5 inch maple, like on those birds, it was slow. You had to go really slow. If you go too fast, you'll burn too, which can be a problem. Okay, so that kind of goes over setting up your workspace. And like I said, I preferably an adjustable height chair, but this chair is probably not quite at the right height for this saw. I would probably have this a little bit lower for me, but it's gonna vary. Yeah.
I noticed that when you cut a lot of stuff, you get a lot of fine particles floating through the air.
Yep, we're gonna talk about air filtration here coming up.
I've got a big filtration system filter right next to mine, and I'll tell you, it catches a lot of that stuff.
Yep, we're coming up to that. Coming up to that next one of the next slides here. So, okay, what's the next slide here? Forget where I'm at here.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, so we gotta talk about comfort, position, and you gotta find what's comfortable for you. What works for me may not work for you. You may not want to raise the back of your saw. You may want to. You might find that you sit a little bit lower than I do, or a little bit higher. It all depends on your height, your torso length, things like that. All right. Here we go. So now we're gonna talk about dust collection. So scroll saws do create dust, but it's not like sanding. If you're ever do any kind of sanding, you know that, man, that creates a ton of dust. They do create dust. They do create, and you can see when I'm cutting here, there's a little bit of dust. What a lot of scrollers will do is they'll take a box fan, just cheap old $20 box fan from Menards, take a 20 by 20 air filter and just tape it on the back side of the box fan. Put it down by your saw, run it on high, and it moves a really high amount of air. And it does a really good job of catching the fine dust. It's a really inexpensive solution. I have one of those, and I also have what you see pictured up here. It hangs in the ceiling of my shop, and it runs, and I turn it on as a little remote control. I turn it on, that gets the air out, the dust out of the air. Is that really fine dust is the bad stuff. And that furnace filter will grab the larger stuff. It won't get the really, really fine dust. This thing, when I was working on it with some Paducah, which is kind of a reddish orange color, and I'm like, it's not doing anything. And I'm cutting, and after about an hour cutting, the filter was red. So I know it's picking up stuff. But you're like, oh, it doesn't seem to make a difference. It makes a big difference. These come in different sizes. This is, I think, the smaller one that I have. It's really too small for my shop. I need a bigger one. But highly recommend that just for any, even whether you're doing scroll sign or you're doing any kind of woodworking, I recommend having an air cleaner. Now, this saw did originally have an attachment where you hook up the shop back here. And I don't know, you probably can't really see, but there's a little hole in the table around. I removed it because it was in the way of the blade. I really hated it. I don't use it anyway. But the Pegasus, I think, does Pegasus come with that too?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yep, you've got e-bikes with that Pegasus, yep. So the Pegasus, it's just a little plastic piece that sits here, and then there's like a little film that goes on. I never tried it. I don't know how well it works. Either one of you guys tried it?
No.
No, yeah, no one uses it. So it was just in the way, so I just yanked it off because really, I'm not that concerned about dust from my scroll saw. I'm more concerned about dust when I'm doing sanding, like intarsia. I whip up my grinder with my sanding wheels. Yeah, that throws up a lot of dust, but I've got some dust collection. So. Okay, let's move on to the next. So blades, okay. So we talked about blades a little bit. There are 3 main manufacturers of blades. There are others, I mean, you could go, I'm sure there's probably a couple dozen manufacturers of blades, but Flying Dutchman, which are Niqua, is actual, they're rebranded in the United States as Flying Dutchman, but they're actually Niqua blades made in Germany. There's Pegasus blades, which are marketed as Pegasus, which are sold by Bear Woods. I think also Woodcraft might sell them, somebody else sells them. But mainly Bear Woods is your big one for Pegasus blades. Those are made in Switzerland. And then Olson are made in the US. And you can get those, if you're gonna go into Menards, like I did on the way here, because I forgot to grab blades when I left the house this morning. They're gonna have a display with Olson blades. Same with Woodcraft, same with Rockler. The bad part is that I paid $5 for a dozen blades because I needed some blades on the way here. If I go on to Flying Dutchman's website, especially on Cyber Monday like I did this year, I was paying about $285. So they're way cheap. I mean, if you're in a pinch, you need to pick some up at Rockler Menards, go ahead. But I buy them by the gross, so I buy a dozen. And Flying Dutchman always has a Cyber Monday sale. So it's buy a gross, get a gross half off. So I bought 2 gross of blades, and that'll get me through I'll probably sell blades next year when I order more again. But I think it was about $90 so 288 blades. And you can mix and match. It doesn't have to all be the same blades. So I got different sizes, different types, because I use a few different types of blades. And then Pegasus blades, a little bit more expensive, not much. They're pretty close to the same price. And like I said, I just I'm used to Flying Dutchman, and here's the thing. I can cut with any blade. I can cut with an Olson, I can cut with a Flying Dutchman, I can cut with a Pegasus. It doesn't matter. But I for some reason, I can't cut straight with anything but a Flying Dutchman, just because I'm used to it. Because when you're cutting, these blades don't necessarily cut straight. When I'm cutting a straight line here, I'm not necessarily gonna have my piece straight. It might be turned a little bit, because these blades, depending on the blade, depending on the machine, it may cut a little to the left, a little to the right. And you just have to find out what your saw does. Every saw is a little different. It's not a huge thing, and it's something once you get the feel for it, I don't even think about it. I can sit down at any saw and figure out in about 2 seconds how it cuts. But you'll notice, I noticed that when I first started, I'm like, I'm not pushing it straight through to get on my line. I've got it turned a little bit. That's just how the size, that's how the blade is. If I switch to a Pegasus, I can cut fine with a Pegasus. I just, I don't know, I'm used to Flying Dutchman. That's what I have, so that's what I use. Okay, so like I said, blades are sold in packet 12. I showed you there. They're all wrapped up like that. Reverse blades are some using. That's the most popular. I recommend using a reverse blade, especially if you're a beginner, just because if you use just a straight blade, it doesn't have the reverse teeth, on the back side of the cut, you'll get all these little fuzzies that you got to go back and sand. If you use a reverse blade, you'll still get fuzzies, but not nearly as many. So that they're probably the most popular style. And the number 5, which is what I have in here right now, that's a good starting. A number 5 is probably my workhorse blade. I cut all that with a number. Well, that was a number 5, some more details that I didn't use a number 3. But I can cut just what anything with a number 5. Some people like to go smaller blades, and that's fine. Whatever you like is great. But if you're starting out, start with a 5 and you'll do, like, a 5 will cut 1/4 inch, you'll cut 3/4 inch. Those really, the smaller 2-aught blades, you can cut 3/4 with them. It's gonna take a little while. They're better for for thinner woods, but.
What do you think about durability here? Are they all about even?
Yeah, I'd say the blade, there's really not. My experience has been, I've used Pegasus quite a bit. I tried them, I kept thinking on maybe I like them better. They seem to last just as long as the Flying Dutchman, the Olsen that. There's probably a difference, but it's not an appreciable difference. We did that blade test. I don't think we found really any. I think our consensus was that all blades are pretty good. Would you say, John?
Yeah.
I mean, they're cutting, they're all made of the same thing. They're hardened steel. Pegasus does use a little bit different, blade geometry. They do cut a little bit differently. I will say that you can tell when you're using a Pegasus blade.
Are they all stamped or are one versus the other cut?
Olsen does, create one called a PGT blade, which is a precision ground tooth, where they actually do grind the teeth. I don't believe Pegasus or Flying Dutchman have those. I've used them. They're really aggressive. I don't recommend them for beginners. They're more expensive. I didn't find a benefit to use them for me. That doesn't mean you won't. It just means I didn't. I don't like them. John, you use the PGT, don't you?
They do last longer, and yeah, they're very aggressive.
I just, like I said, I like the whole Flying Dutchman cuts. I'm used to it. I've cut hundreds of hours on them. So feel free to experiment. Like if you go on to Flying Dutchman, buy their blades, you can buy just one pack of 12, and you can go and buy. What I did when I first started is I bought a pack of almost every style, and I tried. They have a penguin, and they have straight blades and reverse, and I tried them all, and I thought, well, I like the reverse the best, and that's all I use.
So if all technique is equal and you sit down at your saw for 3-4 hours in an afternoon, 3/4 inch poplar, red oak, whatever, how many blades would you go through?
Well, first of all, I don't recommend cutting oak.
Okay.
Oak is horrible for sure. I mean, people do it, they use it, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't like it as an open grain.
Mhm.
It's really difficult to cut, super hard. It's just awful.
Sure.
If you start cutting oak, you will not want to be scroll sawing. You'll hate it. 3/4 oak, you'll hate it. Maybe, so, you get an idea, I use cherry, black oak, and maple. Those are my 3 main woods. They're all closed grain. They all cut really nice. But anyway, so how long does the blade last? Well, depends what you're cutting.
Without breaking.
Yes.
I mean, just 3-4 hours and, oh my gosh, I've gone through 6 blades.
Yeah, so blades are about 20 cents a piece.
Yeah.
That's what I pay for. So sometimes a blade will last me, depends what I'm cutting. So let's say, okay, so I'm cutting, let's say cherry for this, right? I probably could cut 3-4 of those cherry pieces with one blade before I notice that it's starting to get a little dull.
Okay, so 20 minutes.
That's more than 20 minutes there.
Oh, okay.
That's an hour or two. It's hard to say because it varies. If I'm cutting maple, that blade's gonna wear out faster than if I'm cutting poplar.
Right.
So like those snow pieces are all poplar. I probably cut all those in one blade.
Okay.
Softer wood.
Yeah.
Cut, and the thing is, those are really broad cuts.
Sure.
Those aren't really intricate little tiny cuts. So I'm not turning as much, which doesn't seem to tend to,
My background is all carbide tech, even my bandsaw. But she's cutting scroll sawing and it's like, when my blades are dull, it's like, it's hard to do and I'm fighting it. And I don't know
So what, here's the thing, when you start cutting wood, it's cutting really easy, right? And all of a sudden, after a while, you notice it's not cutting so good. Change your blade. You gotta just remember, scroll saw blades are just a commodity. They're 20 cents a piece. When I did this project, I bet you I went through 10 blades, maybe a dozen blades on that project. Because sometimes what'll happen is, they'll break, I'm pushing too hard, or, so sometimes things will happen, but, yeah, so, So that's, here's the thing, is if you have to push, you have to cut, your blade's probably.
Okay.
And it's just gonna vary. The problem is there's no hard set rule. You cut this much wood, it's time for a new blade. It depends on the blade, depends on the wood, depends on how you're pushing, depends on what you're cutting. I do a lot of fretwork, the style you see over here. And sometimes you're doing these really tight turns, you're constantly, being really hard on the blades. I'm making these really sharp 90-degree turns, and I'm doing really tight. And that tends to wear them out. They tend to break one.
Or move the tooth set, when you're, or do they not?
No, that's not really a problem with
Not
it.
really with.
No, because if you turn it, once you get good, and you turn it now, you can do it 90 your turn.
Mhm.
I can do it without affecting the set, but there's some technique. A lot of it is just feel, and that's probably when I teach classes, I have a hard time telling you like, well, how do I know when to change the blade? I'm like,
If
it's
you
by
have
feel.
to ask, you should change it.
Exactly,
Okay.
it's by feel, like, when you change the blade, well, when it stops cutting so good. Yeah.
You know, I think the bottom line is you gotta find a blade that you're comfortable with. Don't be afraid to try different ones.
Yeah, I mean, $3 a dozen, buy
That's the whole
7,000.
secret. I mean, try different blades, whatever, what works
Brand
on
or-
one might not work on another.
Brand or tooth count, or both?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
So the way blades work is they're numbered.
okay.
So they go down to 2/0, 2/0, that's the smallest. It might be like a 3/0. There's a puzzle blade that's even, it's like looks like a human hair thing. I tried those when I get right done. For doing really intricate jigsaw puzzles, but typically you go 2/0 to 12. So 5 is kind of in the middle there, and that's what I really like to say, yeah, you go 2/0, 14, there you go, 14 to 1. I don't use anything bigger than a 7. Now, there are other people that use number 12 and number 14, and they love them, and hey, power to you. I just, that's a little big for me. I'm not gonna do tight, if I'm doing really tight curves, I'm doing a smaller blade, so just use it as an example I have here. So all these, I cut with a 5, all these bigger. When you start getting into the detail in the beak here, in the face, I switched down to a number 1. Because I can, with a number 1, I can do these really tight corners. And there are some tricks to doing sharp corners without turning the blade, where you come in from one side. And there's some technique to it. And that's how normally you would start, but I've gotten to the point where I can do really sharp corners by turning. It's not easy. It takes a lot of practice. But after a few hundred hours, you get it. But yeah, okay.
Hey, Troy,
Yeah,
one thing you didn't mention, I bought my saw based on how it changed, the blade changes. Because you're gonna do that a lot. So you should be comfortable with, oh, I got a bad blade, take it out. put it on.
yeah, a blade change should take you less than 30 seconds. Then I'll show you. So this style is probably the most common. Until you get into the Hawk and Hegners, where you actually take the holder out, put the blade in, put the holder back in. Even that should only take you 30 seconds. But this style right here, this is 90% of scroll saws sold today. Of those 6 that I showed you, 4 of them use this method. So all it is, so I'm gonna take the tension off. I'm going to remove the top clamp, remove the bottom clamp, pull it. Now I'm gonna take my new blade, I'm gonna pretend this is a new blade. I have to look on this one because I'm not as used to use it. You'll get to the point where you don't even have to look. I mean, I'm doing it without looking. Maybe.
I do it the reverse.
Yeah.
I stick it in the top first and then go down below.
Well,
'Cause then
there's
I don't
no-
have to look.
There's no wrong or right way. There's the way that works for you. So we got it in the bottom. I don't use this all that much, so got in the bottom, got it in the top, got it in the top. Tension on, we're done. Blade change. Some of the older saws have really complicated blade changes, but they're awful. And then check the tension. Looks good. So, yeah, so that quick, and then we'll talk about this coming. Go ahead and then move to the next slide there.
I think you covered that.
Yeah, go ahead and-
Talk about the spiral blade.
Oh, spiral blade, yes, thank you, I did have that in there. Spiral blade, everyone's like, oh, spiral blade, awesome, I can just go, I don't have to turn it, I can cut like a madman, okay. Spiral blades suck. That's all I'm gonna say. I hate spiral blades. I use them a little bit when I do some really intricate veining, like, if you were here a few months ago, you would have saw my, what one of the state fair this year was my cherub box. It has some really delicate vein forward in it, and I use the spiral blade, but I hated it. They're really hard to control. Now, don't get me wrong, some people love them, some people use them, and if you can use spiral blades, hey, God bless you, good, I'm impressed, because I cannot get those things to cut straight. I know some people really like them, and that's fine. I'm just, definitely for a beginner, I don't recommend spiral blades. People are like, oh, I'm just gonna do spiral blades. The problem too is that because there are two blades, or two or more blades twisted together, the kerf is wider. So on, this is a number 5. Well, that kerf is quite a bit bigger. So you're cutting a pretty big kerf, where sometimes most of the time with a scroll saw, you want a really tiny. But that's just my personal opinion. There's nothing wrong with spiral blades. I do use them occasionally. I just don't use them. Okay, so I want to talk about interior cuts, because this is really what sets a scroll saw apart. This is just a little simple pattern. This is a Steve Good pattern. We used at a class a while back. And you see these are all interior cuts. I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with interior cuts are. You drill a small hole, and then what you do, you take the tension off your blade. Now, we're gonna get into the debate here. Bottom feeding versus top feeding. I only do bottom feeding. Why? Because that's what you can do on a hawk. You can't do top feeding on a hawk. I learned on a hawk. That's what I use. That's how I do it. See, I'm gonna show you both methods. You do whatever works best for you. So we release the tension at the top. I'm gonna lift the arm. I'm gonna pretend this hasn't been cut yet. Got my little tiny hole I drilled in my drill press. Feed my blade through. Gonna bring that arm back down. Tighten my blade, tension it, make my cut. Remove the tension, release the blade, pull my piece out, there's my cut. Now, you do that about, I don't know, 800-900 times. And you got some of the more intricate fretwork you've seen. This one's, I don't know, this is maybe about 20 cut. And this is something, I cut this out for example. We had people who were brand new to scroll sawing doing these. And I don't know, they took maybe 45 minutes to cut these out. So this is pretty quick. Now we'll talk about bottom feeding. Like I said, I don't usually do, or top feeding. I don't usually do this way. Top feeding is you release the blade on the bottom, lift the arm up, poke your blade down through the hole, and tighten it down here.
Other than the visual of doing it sight unseen, what's the benefit, pros and cons in either way?
Okay, yep, I'm gonna tell you that. I can't get to go. All right. So the way I do it, bottom feeding, people don't like it because you gotta look at you gotta go like this. So you gotta go here, I'll show you what the pro is.
I find that little hole.
Like I said, I'm not used to this saw. This is just my sort of back saw. Okay. So we're gonna talk bottom feeding, which is what I do, right? So I got 100 holes that I've already pre-drilled here, the tiny little holes. I'm pretty good. I can usually get the right hole. 99% of the time I get the right hole, but it's a little tough because you gotta look, okay, I gotta feed down, pull down, right? Well, if I top feed, which a lot of people do prefer, especially for fretwork, but weirdo, you can see what hole you're going into. You go right down that top of the right hole. Either way is perfectly fine. The reason I do it the way I do is because that was the only option I had in my first hawk. And my current hawk is the same way. I have to feed from the bottom. I don't have a choice. That's what I'm used to. But you can do it either way. There is no correct way, either way. Just like with spiral blades. There's nothing wrong with them. You can do it however you like. So, Carl, yeah.
It depends on how big your board is too. I mean,
Yes.
you turn around and pull that board up.
Well, you've seen the stuff I've done. I've done stuff this big. I still bottom feed them.
Yeah, it gets to be a little difficult.
It does, yeah. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying, it's a personal preference.
I'm a bottom feeder. But that's, I almost always get to the bottom. The other
Yeah.
thing about it, lining up to the top, you have to hit the hole in the table. You gotta have that board right in the right spot.
Yes.
Or it's gonna hit the top of the table and slip the hole. So.
And it's just practice. It just takes, like anything, it takes a little bit of practice. Like putting this blade in. So one thing, I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I want to make sure we cover it. These style saws, you manually lift it. And that gives you the clearance to get either if you're bottom feeding, it gives you the clearance to get your piece in there, or if you're top feeding, it gets you the blade above the piece. most saws, the Walt, Hegner, say goes, all have this arm where you have to manually lift it. Hawk and Hegner are a little different, they're spring loaded. So what happens is, as soon as I release the tension, this arm pops up automatically and stays up until I pull it down. Yeah, so it's just a little bit different. I like it. What's also the difference is if you break a blade on a Hawk or Hegner, the arm pops immediately up and stays up, and the blade doesn't move anymore. Where this one, the blade still keeps moving. It's just a style. Not a deal breaker, doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about patterns. So there are multiple sorts of scroll saw patterns, books, magazines, various websites. I have some here I'm talking about. So Steve Good, if you haven't gone to Steve Good's site, I'm pretty sure anyone who's got any experience here, I know is familiar with Steve Good. This is a Steve Good pattern. Because the reason is that Steve Good, all his patterns are free. And he has hundreds of patterns, not thousands by now. And they're all free. You can download them for free. He doesn't charge anything. Because that's just how he works. He has everything from simple patterns like this, which is a great beginner pattern, to really complex patterns. And you know, he has a certain style. And I like his stuff. I make plenty of his stuff. But there are plenty of other places too. So the one you have a pattern you want to try, you pick your pattern. Here's that funny. Now, here's where it gets the vice tip too. I use 3M clear packing tape. I buy from Costco in bulk. I like it. Not everybody does. Some people use blue painter's tape. Some people use clear contact paper. Some people use masking tape. Some people don't put tape at all. But it's nice. You don't know if you really see here, but behind this pattern there is clear packing tape all the way across. So I'm just giving you how I do it. I put down the clear packing tape, trim it all off, take my pattern, spray it with 3M77, which is a spray adhesive. You can use spray adhesive you like. Give it a few seconds, slap the pattern on, rub it on, we're done. The reason I put the tape on is twofold. When it comes to peeling the pattern off, it's much easier to peel that tape off. If you put that pattern directly on the wood with that spray adhesive, you're gonna have to sand it off. It's not gonna come off. Where the tape, it just peels right off. Second, it lubricates the blade. So this tape, whatever tape you use is plastic, it melts from the heat from the blade, and it gives just a little bit of lubrication. If you try to cut cherry without tape on it, it will burn. With tape on it, it might still burn, but it's much less likely to burn. It just gives it just a little bit of lubrication to help that blade keep from burning the wood. Cherry is the worst for burning, but you can also burn maple and anything else. I don't think I've ever burned this stuff. So that's twofold. So like I said, whether you use blue painter's tape, whether you use masking tape, whatever you use, contact paper, whatever you use what you like, and that's what you do. And then like you see, I have all the holes drilled here, and that's just the key is every blade. There's a chart that tells you the smallest bit that blade will go through. Like a number 5, I think, is a number 63 bit, remember right? Which is a really tiny wire bit. And I don't need that for this one because it's a big enough hole that I can use like an 1/8 inch bit and that's fine. But when you're doing that really intricate stuff, sometimes you need a really tiny hole. And if you go on the Flying Dutchman site, they'll actually next to their blade, they tell you, this is the minimum size hole, this, bit that this blade will fit through when you get into really intricate. What else we have?
No. Something that we've done, from the start of this is we use, full sheet AB labels. And then run them through the printer.
Yep, you can do that.
Self-adhesive right on, so
Yep.
there's no spray at all.
Yeah,
And
you can do that.
cleaner and, gee, I don't think you've had any trouble with peeling it off or.
No, when you're saying lubricating.
The tape, I recommend the tape, whether you use painter's tape or whatever. It does give you that lubrication. It does cut a little easier. It does prevent from burning.
Clear contact paper is good like
Sure.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clear contact paper.
Mm-hmm.
The Avery label, I've never tried that. That's actually not a bad idea. But some of the patterns I use are,
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I know, yeah.
so it's a little tougher to.
Hard to get that.
Yeah, exactly. Hard to get that tape for on. And like I said, I just used, why do I use 3M packing tape? Because that's what I had in my shop when I started. And then sometimes, if you do stack cutting, we stack two together, and I don't use stack cutting here, but where I'm cutting two pieces that are identical, I used to use carpet tape, which worked pretty good. But I found this other stuff, it's called X Fasten woodworking double-sided tape. Oh man, it's so much better.
super thin.
It's thinner.
Yeah.
It's really easy, but the problem with cover tape, you end up breaking a piece trying to pull it apart.
Yeah.
Where this stuff is much better. It still holds, but it doesn't hold as well as cover tape does, which is. But that's when we get into stack, so we're not really talking.
What was that you preferred?
It's called X Fasten woodworking tape. It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
And I ended up buying, it was 3 rolls for like $20. And I'm probably never gonna buy it again because my grandkids will probably.
No, you put the tape on, and you have spray, and then you put the pattern on, the spray.
Yeah, exactly. But, so I just cut this out. Now, you can build a little box and spray, and I just let it get everywhere. I don't really care. And then I just slap her on and I cut. But, that's the one. So,
It does two things, that lubricates the blade, and it also keeps the 3M out of the wood, the spray adhesive out of the wood.
right, because if you do the pattern and you put it directly on the wood,
Right.
it'll stick. It'll stick real good.
Yep.
You'll have to sand it off.
Yeah.
Whereas with the tape, if I just grab this little corner here,
But we can do the clear packaging tape and the labels. and
yeah, you could, yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's two-step
So,
process.
so here, this just peels right off.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't damage the wood so
Yeah,
much.
there's no residue.
Oh, and if you're using the 3M packing tape, make sure you take it off within about 30 days, because after that, it does leave a residue.
Yeah.
As an alternative to 3M 77, which can get messy.
Mhm.
Elmer's glue has little glue sticks.
Yeah, you can use glue sticks too, yeah.
You're familiar with
She does that with some crafting, other things too.
So again, so why do I use 3M77? Because it was in my cabinet.
Because you have it.
Yeah.
Because I use it for picture, I also do custom picture framing,
Okay.
and I use 3M77 to hold certain things to the backs, mounting boards. So it was in my cover. That's how I use it. Is that the last one, I think?
This is the last
That's the last one. Okay. All right, so I want to talk real quick here. So this is a book that I really recommend if you're new. It's called Scroll Saw Workbook. It's about $12 to $15 on Amazon. It's put out by what's the name of it? Fox Chapel Publishing. They're the same people that produce this magazine. Most Scroll Saw books are by Fox Chapel. They are the big one for Scroll Saw. Now, the reason I recommend.
Would you show that here to the?
Yeah,
to the
sure.
camera? Let me, hang on,
Yep.
let me
The
flip.
reason I recommend this book is because it has a lot of really good information in it. The information about saws is a little dated because it's hard to keep up on that. This book's from a few years ago, so it's a little outdated, but it actually has some really good, we've got the history of scroll saws. If you're a geek like me, you really want to know that. The different type of mechanisms, which is kind of interesting. And it took me forever here, John, to figure out what the heck an oscillating loop is. That's that eclipse as an oscillating loop. So I would ignore this isn't bad, but it's not great either. It's outdated. But it has information about blades, what different blades, what they do, things like that. But it's got a blade chart, which is really nice. But what's really neat is that it has a series of projects. So it's got a test pattern to start with. But it starts you out and it goes through fretwork, a little bit intarsia, inlay. And what you can do, if you do each of the projects in here, you might do one thing, oh boy, I really like doing fretwork, which if you're like me, you're one of the weirdos. There's nothing good to it. There's a few of you. But or you may think, oh, I really like, inlay seems really neat. I want to do inlay. Or you say, oh, I tried inlay, man, that was awful. I don't ever want to do that again. Fretwork's terrible, but hey, I really like this. So it's a really inexpensive, good book. It's a really good reference. I recommend it to anyone who's new. Do the projects in this book and you will figure out whether or not you like scrolling and what you like to do. And it's got a really good reference. And of course, the magazine, I'm sure pretty much, but just about everybody here gets this magazine. It comes out about, I think it's 4 times a year. Quarterly. Okay. And what's really nice, it's not that it's pretty inexpensive magazine, but every month it comes with a pullout. These are all patterns.
So it said woodworking, is it actually a scroll saw, or is it?
Yep, it's called Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts.
Okay.
every month you get, so on this one, this is the most recent one. That is a Judy Gale Roberts pattern, that truck. I was thinking about doing that one, I look at how many pieces it was, and yeah, no. But yeah, so, and you can make copies of these and make as you. This pattern, this cardinal panel was in this book, I guess about 6 years ago. I bought it from Sue Mann, but she had it in the magazine several years ago. And there's really interesting articles in here. They did a little write-up about us a few months ago. About different scroll saw clubs. There's, you know, there's techniques and patterns, all kinds of things. So it's really a great magazine. Highly recommended. And then there's also books like this. There's another Fox Chapel book. So this is Judy Gale Roberts. That's who did the design of the eagle that John did there. This one was 30. This is an older book. My mother-in-law gave this to me like 20-some years ago, and I've never made anything out of it. So, but it is actually a really good. It's got a lot of good information. How to do intarsia, tips, tricks, things like that. So, and there are other books like this too. Sue May has a couple books. Anyway, there's a lot of different intarsia books, but I definitely recommend them. And this is an older one actually. This is segmentation. So this is similar to intarsia. Segmentation is what John was talking about with his flag, where it's painted and it's all from one piece of wood rather than being different colors, different kinds of wood. It's similar to intarsia. I'm not even sure if this book's in print anymore, but it's an interesting one. It's got some good. And then this is the one that started it all for me. So I saw this book on Amazon, and I'm like, oh, I think I could do that. And I looked at my crummy little Delta scroll saw that I had that was not very good. And I'm like, yeah, not with that saw. And then a friend of my parents, her father had a hawk. He passed away several years earlier, owned a craft store. And I bought his hawk and I started, and that's what I did. So I started, this is Judy and Dave Peace, and they had several different books of these freestanding puzzles. And they walk you through the first one. And this is how I learned. Everyone learns differently. I just read it and I did it. And I made this pattern probably 6 times. So I got to the point I was happy with it. And I started because they have easy patterns, intermediate patterns, advanced patterns. I made every one in this book, including this one. So I worked my way up until I get to that one. I got comfortable, and then I just kept working up from there. So a lot of really good resources, a lot of good books, and you can get these books from the library. My local library has almost all of these, and I live in a small town, so you should be able to find them in the library. And then if you want to bring up that website page. So I've talked about, these are all the different websites I've talked about. You got Steve Good, and we can send this out to anyone that wants it. We've got Steve Good's website, Buchan, they make talk, advanced machinery, they sell Hegner, Seiko, different, where you keep the blade. Judy Gale Roberts was in intarsia. She's the premier intarsia person. She's the one that started it all. And her site, she has so many patterns. Kathy Wise is also, this is a Kathy Wise pattern. My favorite site, Fine Scroll Saw. They're out of Spain, and he takes old patterns from around 1900, redoes them in AutoCAD, and sells them. And I've done a bunch of his patterns, and I love his stuff. So that's me. I like really old weird stuff. And then Art Factory, they're the ones that run the show down in Buchan every year. I made one of their clocks, wooden teddy bear, pattern blade, other stuff. Winfield collection. Then you've got Sue May, who's another scroll solver in Cherokee for his Fox Chapel. Those are just all links. Those are all good links. There are plenty of other places you can get stuff. Don't get me wrong, you can make your own patterns. There's tons of stuff, but these are just kind of a basic, like this is back to basics. People are starting out, these are all really good places. And I've purchased from every one of those. Except, yeah, no, that's some Seiko too. Yep, I bought something from every one of those websites. I can tell you how I've had good experience with all. Because yeah, I have a bunch of sauce.
Good job.
Yeah, and then if anyone's got any questions, feel free to come up here and I'll if you want to see something on the saw, let me know. If you want to try it out, that's perfectly fine. Other than that, hope everybody enjoyed it and found some useful information.
You tried, very well covered presentation. So with that, I think the meeting is about over.
Well, I'll say that, I'll put the PowerPoint slide, the Word document, with the links on it, as well as the recording out on the YouTube site. So it should be out there later this week if anybody wants to review the presentation or the documents that Troy has.
There's no other things. See Roger for some wood. There's a few more pieces back there. Otherwise, enjoy the winter. Stay warm. Thanks all.
See, yeah. So the sweet thing is trying to use my spot lay on the biggest. I don't know how to.
Keep on keeping on for
Okay. Well, I'll show you.